Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 62 today on a very hot day up here in Queensland. Top temperature today will be 35 degrees, and as Mark pointed out before we went to wear this morning, it will be worse tomorrow. So please keep up your fluid today. And if you are going out, please, you know the drill, slip, slop, slap. And good morning to everyone in Sydney. I will be seeing you very, very soon. So I can't wait to see you all again. Well, I am nearly jumping out of my chair again after yesterday's episode at Chermside. Well, here's Mark now to recap my good news and good morning to you.
Good morning, Barry. Good morning, viewers. Fantastic news yesterday. Barry got the date, which is the magic thing that was missing from any move discussion that we've had in the past. So now that you have the date, you are exceedingly excited about the fact that things are going ahead and you've actually got a time frame to work with and a date to work toward.
So, sadly for the Queensland viewers, the Out and About series, which Mark and I started on the 30th of May this year, well, it's just about the end of it. And it is getting to that point. We hope that you've enjoyed the shows that we've brought to you. Here's Mark to open episode 62 with this.
It is sad news, Barry, that the end is nigh for Out and About, but it has been a fantastic experience for us, and I hope the viewers have enjoyed it as well. But, more importantly, it was a great experience for us. So very happy to have been a part of this all the way along, and I am very disappointed that it's coming to an end, but for all the right reasons. And I'm more excited about the fact that you're going to get to do your move back to New South Wales, which has been your mission now for quite some time.
So we'd like to go over now how Out and About originated. Well, firstly, this man here, Mr. Mark English, I met with him and a few other people, and some were in isolation. Okay, we had a meeting to decide what we were going to do and what days and people were going to start. And then on Monday morning, the 30th of May, 10 o'clock in the morning, this man here, Mark English, entered the studio. And the very first thing we did was get my internet banking sorted out. But it took us most of the morning to get that up and running. We had no luck here, so we had to go to the bank at Fortitude Valley to do it. So here's Mark to tell you about that annoying part.
Well, I suppose the vagaries of internet banking and some of the little subtle things that you needed to set it up for yourself, Barry, and it just that under the circumstances, we had to pay a visit to a branch just to get things kicked off, which wasn't too drastic. And the bank was very good, and it was sorted out relatively quickly. But of course, then we needed to come back to be able to complete the process online. So it wasn't fully completed that day, but we got a good start on it and then tripped up to the Story Bridge.
And that was our next task. It took us nearly an hour to get up to the bridge. And the problem with that was because there was lots of crossing the road, getting my chair up some annoying curves, because as you know, some of Brisbane is old and some of it is done up. Here's Mark.
Yes, some of it is old, and it's, for people that haven't been to Brisbane, surprisingly hilly. So there is a fair bit of uneven terrain for you to negotiate, as well as crossings. And just because of the hills and the way the roads are cut in, some of those footpaths, the ramps up to them are extremely steep, which isn't particularly electric wheelchair friendly. But as I've said, we live and learn, and whilst that was a very difficult journey and not one that I'd recommend on a comfortable outing, it did get achieved. And once we got there and I realised a few things about the restrictions for the electric wheelchair, then we were pretty much right from then on.
And it was an overcast and dreary day. Not the sort of weather for beginning our out and about series. Now, once getting off the bridge, we ended up outside the Story Bridge Hotel. Excuse me. Excuse me. We ended up outside the Story Bridge Hotel. So the Story Bridge Hotel literally is underneath the bridge. So, and funnily enough, the first cabby that we got, he took us there, but was unable to bring us back. So we had to book another cab to get us home. And another thing, we went along the Gateway Bridge, and the meter was stopped halfway. The meter was getting up towards the $100 mark. So that's why the driver stopped the meter well before we got back to Bray Park. And then I found out later, after I had given the driver the docket, that I owed him $15 more. Now, if you are traveling in a taxi, guys, please ask the driver how much the exact fare is and so forth, and make sure you fill in the docket, the suburb in which you're going to, and where you to or from, I should say, or should I say, where you're going to, where you're going from and where you're going to. Here's Mark.
Yes, when using the dockets, you've got to have your start point and your end point, which is just a part of checks and balances for the transport department to make sure that the fare and the trip actually match up and is appropriate. And I didn't realise that you got charged the difference, and I know exactly why, because people in Queensland are, the Queensland subsidy is on a total fare of $60, whereas your New South Wales subsidy is on a total fare of 120. And they just struggle to believe that you get a $60 subsidy instead of a $30 subsidy. So there's a constant fight about what the vouchers are worth, and it was only a refusal to believe that the voucher was worth 50% of what he was charging rather than $30 and then Barry paying the difference.
So that was our first day of Out and About. But the original episode was episode 17. Now, our second time was on June 10th. Okay, and that was Mark's second appearance. And that was episode 20. Now, funnily enough, I thought I got approved for the house in Sydney at the time. But as Mark pointed out, it was miscommunication. Okay, and here he is to tell you about it.
Yes, you thought you were having an assessment for one reason, and you were having an assessment for a completely different reason, which obviously wasn't clearly stated to you. And so you thought everyone was actually working towards your move, when in fact it was just routine package adjustments, and consequently months went by before you'd sort of realised that it wasn't actually work on the move.
And I got a little bit upset about that. And that was in May as well. So a lot of frustration and homesickness back there. So on episode 20, we talked about the NDIS, okay? And then we trooped off to Strathpine for the afternoon towards the end of the day. And that was episode 20 done and dusted. We actually did episode 20 here in the studio, just like we're doing now, episode 62. But then, episode 21 came along, and that's when it really fell apart. Here's Mark.
Yes, episode 21, infamous. We went to Scarborough for the day, and you started off not too bad and just kept going downhill. And by the time you had lunch, you were really just ready for bed. So we just, after lunch, sort of spent the afternoon waiting for taxis.
So I couldn't even do a proper episode at that time. So episode 22, guys. Now, that was supposed to be to South Bank, but unfortunately, no. Episode 22 ended up with me cancelling a couple of programs and out and about. Very disappointing, but as you all know, if you've got COVID, you've got to stay isolated. So it was a very frustrating and annoying time. Okay, so 12 days of colon torture. And I ended up in the hospital too a couple of times during that time. And then Mark got it, so he wasn't able to come for a couple of weeks. So very annoying that. Here's Mark.
Yes, basically nearly all of June was a write-off, wasn't it, Barry?
It was.
So from our first episode, really, to the end of June, between COVID, your COVID, my close contact isolation, and because of the rules at the time, I missed the following Monday, and then I got COVID positive, so I was out.
Were you tested positive?
Yeah, so I tested positive, and that slowed us down for yet another week. But after that, we've been fairly routine.
So July came along, and it started off okay, but tragedy struck on the 8th of July, which we won't go into on the show. Okay, and I was alone here. Again, I won't go into that. But out and about recommenced on Monday the 11th of July. Okay, and we went to Scarborough again to repeat the episode 21 to make up for what happened on that day. And then from then on, we went to Strathpine New Farm Park. We've been bowling, you name it, we've done it. Here's Mark.
Yes, we've been busily out and about, haven't we? So we've, as you say, done quite a few boardwalk areas and quite a few shopping centres. So obviously the shopping centres give us quite a deal of scope. They've nearly all got good access and little bits of entertainment along the way that we can enjoy. So shopping centres do tend to be a very good place for us to go and fill in time and have some games and make videos, etc. But it gives you a chance to shop and use the food court to your leisure and pleasure,
as you call it. So yes, viewers, we've done a lot of videoing throughout the 61 episodes. We've missed a couple, and we've even done the Botanic Gardens a couple of times. We've done Shorncliffe, episode 35. That was great there too. In the Philly, we did that. We've done Chermside. And you know, guys, it's just been an absolute journey for us. Here's Mark.
Yes, when I think about it now, it is quite extensive, the number of places that we've been and even when we've been back to the same places, we haven't always done the same things. So it's been a very full schedule and quite routine, considering certainly of late we've been out 3 times a week. Just lately, we've been doing Tuesdays in the studio, doing a bit of cooking instead.
And speaking of that, we're going to be cooking up some chicken snitties. So here's Mark to tell you about that now.
Yes, well, chicken snitties were the lunch order for the day, and we do quite enjoy being able to cook it ourselves. So there is currently a chicken breast waiting for us to soak it and get it ready for cooking.
And crumb it.
Absolutely. But first, cut, bash, soak.
And then put it in the fridge for a while, and then we will continue episode 1262. I nearly went backwards. Sorry about that. So before we do go to the break, guys, we've had some fantastic adventures, and, and we've had a lovely taxi driver come and take us out. And here's Mark to tell you about it.
Yes, because obviously very routine users of the wheelchair accessible taxis, and there aren't that many of them. You tend to get the same drivers a few times, and eventually we lucked onto one that literally lives around the corner from Barry, and so he routinely checks in to see where we're at and when we're going and where we're going, etc., and then does his best to make sure that he can come and pick us up in the afternoon. And if he can't, then generally helps organise another taxi for us, which seems to be much more successful than us trying to do it on our own through the normal channels.
So from May to now, we have come a long way with our Out and About series, and we do hope that you have enjoyed it. And sad for the Queensland viewers, like I've just said, you know, I've got to do what's right and go and see my friends and family. But it doesn't mean that Mark and I won't be able to keep in touch after we finish the show. Here's Mark.
Definitely. The power of internet, etc., makes it quite easy. So I'm looking forward to your next production idea and seeing what you come up with, to be honest.
So we're going to take a break and get ready to cook this chicken now. And when we do come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue more about how I came to Brave Park, why I wanted to come to Brave Park. So stay with us. This is episode 62 now with Barry Fair and Mark English. The time is 2 minutes past 11. And before we sign off, the Friday Follies were a success too. Here's Mark.
Yes, well, Out and About started when we were just doing Mondays together, and then we ended up doing Mondays and Tuesdays, and then Mondays and Tuesdays and Fridays. So once we got to Fridays, I frivolously said one day, "Oh, it's like the Friday Follies." So it kind of
So there won't be any Friday Follies this week, and and we certainly hope that you've enjoyed them. So we're off to get this chicken cooked, and we will rejoin you or join up after the break, and we'll bring you more of episode 62 after the break.
see you soon.
See you soon. Welcome back to episode 62, everybody. Coming up to 11:25 here on Tuesday. And if you're in Sydney, 12:25. Well, very soon I will be in Sydney. Now we'd like to talk about how Out and About will end. And rejoining me in the studio, it's Mark English. Good morning. Again, welcome back to part 2 now.
Thanks, Barry. Good to be back, of course. And I am looking forward to having our discussion about how we bring it to a close.
So, firstly, how we will bring our Out and About to a close. Mark and I were discussing yesterday, like you've heard the saying, the adventure ends how it began. Well, I thought we might end Out and About on the Story Bridge. So if we started on the Out and About on the Story Bridge, we will end it on the Story Bridge. It's like the saying, you start something, you finish it. And that's exactly what Mark and I are gonna do. Here he is.
Thanks, Barry. Looking forward to it. And at least I'm sure that we'll have a much smoother trip getting ourselves onto the bridge and knowing our way around a little bit better. So I'm really looking forward to redoing the Story Bridge, but without all the discomfort and all the worry that went with, are we actually going to get there?
Because what's the point of starting the adventure somewhere and we can't end it? So we thought we would take the opportunity to conclude Out and About on the Story Bridge. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And Mark and I have really enjoyed bringing Out and About to you. And this is what, just to show you people, especially people in wheelchairs and places that you might be able to get to. Here's Mark.
Thanks, Barry. It's been a fantastic experience for me to see the hardships and be able to work with you to see how far you can go and what you can and can't do. So, as it pans out, of course, you can do just about everything as long as your wheelchair can fit. So, there haven't been too many restrictions. Of course, uneven ground is our enemy, and to that end, some of the street access, or getting up from the street onto the footpath in Brisbane can be very difficult. So we did have a few trips where that became a bit of an issue, So particularly one where we went all the way down James Street in the valley to go into the back entrance of New Farm Park. So that was a very long journey on Brisbane streets, and we got there in the end, but it did take a little while, and we did have a couple of minor issues on certain ramps that weren't appropriate, and we had to duck across to the other side of the road to be able to get up onto a footpath. So that said, everything else has been fairly smooth, and it's been a fantastic experience just to get out and see some more of Brisbane.
And we did that episode 40 on on that particular day. Now we did another episode before that. That was way back.
To New Farm Park.
Yes.
Yes.
It was on July 18th we did that.
Yes, it's a beautiful spot, New Farm Park. And it was really, the park itself has fantastic access, lovely paths around that make it very user-friendly, and lots of relatively level space off the path that your wheelchair didn't have any trouble with. And it essentially opened up the entire park. So New Farm Park was a great destination because there are so many options for different aspects, I suppose, and different parts of the gardens that are just beautiful.
So, needless to say, guys, we've done a lot since we brought Out and About to you. And as much as you don't want Out and About to end, well, sometimes we've just got to make an informed decision, which, of course, can be heartbreaking, but for me, in my case, well, I've got a lot of friends in Sydney that, I have not seen since I left Sydney. So, when decisions like this have to be made, well, I've got to look up myself. Here's Mark.
Definitely, Barry. And I have to say, I totally respect that homesickness and a desire to get back amongst friends, etc., is prompting your move back to Sydney. But I'm intrigued as to why you decided to move from Sydney to Brisbane in the first place.
Well, I came to tell you that I wanted to change and to see how things would pan out here, but as you know, I've been through a lot, and like we mentioned before the break, COVID set in, death in the house, you name it, it happened.
Yes, it was a very rough start to your trip to Queensland, that's for sure.
Well, my drama started on the plane.
Yes, you didn't even make it to Bray Park before you had a disaster.
And it was a hell of a first night because I thought, am I going to start this adventure and wake up at Bray Park? And did that happen? No, it did not. Where did I end up? Somewhere unpleasant. Who did I end up with? The guys in green. Not a pleasant start. Now, Bray Park, on the other hand, it began on April 5th, and I did my opening sequence out in the dining room. That was at 25 minutes to 8 in the evening. But I arrived here one beautiful sunny afternoon here, 3 o'clock, and my bed had arrived, and there was trouble, getting me onto the bed with a dark hoist. And for dinner that night, I had mango chicken, and another client had cooked that, so that was my first night's dinner. And then the next day, I slowly began to do my YouTube videos, my new ones up here, and then I got this set up, and I was able to start filming in here. Now, my first video in here was in April, at Easter time on Good Friday. So we had fish and chips on that day, $12.10 it cost. And then Easter went, and then Saturday, April 23 came. I did a tour of the house on video, which you can see, which you can view. And then Anzac Day, I did a video on how to manage stress and things like that. And then the following April 26th, off the hospital again. Not good. I think I was still a bit anxious about being up here. And you know what it's like when you're away from your family and friends. And then on April 29th, I went on my first outing with the house. And it was to Sandgate. We had a beautiful lunch there. So yeah, April went, and then May came along, and then I got through May okay. And then June came along, and like I mentioned before, well, May came along, and then Out and About started with Mark. And yeah, the time has just gone. Here's Mark.
Time has gone fast, hasn't it? And, well, I think that's partly because we've always been busy. So, the time does whip by when you're busy. So, because we've always been busy, our time together always seems very quick. But, when you count it out into 60 episodes, it makes it sound so much more. And to be honest, you have done a lot in a relatively short time. So you've been extremely busy since you got here, getting out and seeing Brisbane. And at least when you get back to Sydney, you'll be able to say that you have seen a very good proportion of Brisbane.
And like on episode 47 and 48, or episode 47 was when I got the news. Here's Mark.
I'm assuming that that news was the yes, you've been approved to move back to Sydney news.
And the house.
That, yes, well, really, that was what they were waiting on, wasn't it? That
Yeah.
there was a place for you to move into.
Yeah.
And that was when you got the nod that, yes, there was a new house at Cromer for you to move into. And we've done the virtual tours and it looks absolutely fantastic.
Now, now, I'd like to tell you viewers now why I chose to move back. Well, on the 31st of May, I had a meeting and discussed why I wanted to move back, and I was worried that it might not be possible. But as the months ticked by, you know, I was waiting and waiting and waiting, and up until now, okay, this is what happened. Here's Mark.
Well, has been a bit of a wait, but the persistence and calm way that you've approached it has paid off. And essentially, you got what you wanted, which was the move back to Sydney, not just that it's been approved, but obviously there's a fair bit to organise as well. And at least now, as we've told you all, Barry has a date to work toward. So that takes a lot of the pressure off in, I suppose, the stress of you wondering whether you are in fact going to move. So having a date makes it much more certain for you, doesn't it?
It does. So you know, guys, it has been a long road. I mean, who would have thought Sydney wasn't gonna happen? Because on the 20th episode of this program, well, it wasn't out and about, it was here in the studio. Here's Mark.
Well, episode 20, was that when you found out that what you thought you'd been working on, that people had been working on something else?
I thought that I had been, and we will pause that. I thought I had been approved for the house, but actually I wasn't. And like Mark pointed out, it was miscommunication. Here's Mark.
Yes. You thought that what you were working towards was house approval in Sydney, and everyone else seemed to be working towards routine package reviews. And the fact that you wanted to move to Sydney seemed to have slipped onto the back burner. And it was only really after your meltdown that I think that people realised that you were serious about moving back to Sydney, and suddenly took it seriously. But of course, that restarted the process of approvals. So it has taken quite a long time from your I want to move back to Sydney to get to this point of having a date.
So what? So like I said, viewers, it's not that I didn't want to be here. Okay, it's just that, like Mark said before, homesickness is set in virtually a month after I moved in, and the dramas on the plane, that was a mess. And like we said before, no good start there. Here's Mark.
No, well, I have to admit, I don't know much about your plane dramas other than you had them. So I suppose nothing's ever straightforward, and what should have been a relatively simple move was not. And of course, that was made worse by the fact that you became unwell. So that certainly didn't help things when it came to being on the plane.
And that was because, guys, I was anxious, not knowing what to expect. Here's Mark.
Well, I can't vouch for that because it's a very personal thing, Barry, but I suspect that your anxiety was subconsciously linked to the fact that you were leaving all of your support mechanisms as you knew them, and just moving and the staff that you have to deal with must have created a lot of anxiety for you, because at least where you were, you knew the staff, you knew what they were like, how they treated you, etc. And when you're moving to a completely new environment, you didn't have any support network set up at all for yourself up here. And I think that that probably left you feeling very isolated when you got here.
And my funding wasn't even right to start with.
They're the technical aspects of bureaucracy that I am utterly unfamiliar with. So whilst I find it hard to believe that people hadn't thought about your package before you moved, I suppose that happens. I just assume that you would have needed it to be in place to move here. So shows what I know. But you got here and things eventually got sorted in that regard. But of course, you know, those feelings of homesickness were just too strong to overturn, and you've been dedicated to going back to Sydney since May for sure. So it didn't take you long to realise, and you were quick to let people know that's what you wanted to do, which is just as well, because it has still taken a very, what I consider to be a very considerable length of time to get organised.
So towards the end of episode 61 yesterday, I brought this magnificent bag, which will show you.
I'll just get.
We'll just pause that for a sec. Now, this is a lifeline bag. So, if you're ever in an RACQ branch, guys, help the RACQ lifeline stay in the air and purchase one of their beds. Donate some money to them. Here's Mark to recap on that.
Yes, they provide an excellent service, and Life Flight is partly sponsored and partly funded through donation. So if you can find your way clear to provide some extra cash for Life Flight, you can buy yourself a bear or just make a straight donation through the RACQ. and your donation, I'm sure, will be gratefully received.
And they will thank you for it. Now we're going to move on to how we are going to conclude the shows. The program you are watching now will soon come to an end. And I'd like to share with you some of the reasons why I've decided to move back to Sydney. But I will get to that in a moment. It's not that I have not enjoyed Queensland, guys. You know, when the shoe doesn't fit on the foot and it's too tight and you've got a blister on the foot, you're thinking, not the right fit. Here's Mark now.
Nice analogy, Barry. And for those of you that are about to say, well, what if the shoes are made of leather, they'll mould? Rubbish. If shoes are too small, they're too small. So if your shoes don't fit, it doesn't matter what you do. All you're doing is trying to make them fit. So you'd probably be better off just buying a pair that fit in the first place. So all the effort that goes into making something fit is, in essence, a waste of time, given that if you just buy the right size to start with, your shoes fit. And for Barry, that means even though he's tried hard to make Queensland like a pair of leather shoes and make it fit, it simply isn't happening. So those things about his connection to family and very long-term friends that he has in New South Wales is obviously the main driver for pulling him back there away from us.
And you know, it's like if you remember the tale of Goldilocks and the three bears. Like there's one bowl of porridge that's too hot, one bowl of porridge that's too cold, or a bowl of porridge that's just right. And you weigh it all up. And if you sit on a chair that's too small, a chair that's too hard, or a chair that's right. And then if you get in a bed that is too soft, too hard, don't sleep in it. But if you bed in the right bed, you'll sleep comfortably. Here's Mark for that analogy.
Well, it's pretty much the same. If it fits, fantastic. If it doesn't, it simply isn't going to work. So Queensland just wasn't the right fit for Barry, and you knew that very early on, and you're greatly looking forward to going back to New South Wales.
Now I'd like to talk about how I got the phone call and the information. It was at Chermside yesterday that I got the phone call and Mark was listening in on it to see what was going to happen, and by a stroke of luck, bingo, I had a date. People were thinking, goodness me, we better give this guy a date. He's on to us. Here's Mark.
Well, yes, you did have to force their hand by saying, in the absence of any news, you were just going to make it the 11th of January, which of course spurred everyone into instant action. And whilst you aren't going to get the time frames that you would have preferred, it did mean that you got a date range and a commitment to a time frame, which is something that you hadn't had for the last 6 months while you've been trying to get this move happening.
So we really do hope that you've enjoyed the show. And this is episode 62 today. Now, if you remember on episode 50, at the end of that, we cooked a magnificent chicken schnitzel painting from like the Soul Origin version, and we really did like that. Here's Mark.
We have had a few Soul Origin schnitzel paninis, and it does tend to be one of your favourite lunches. So we thought we'd try and emulate that back at the house, and we had a crack. Wasn't quite up to the standard, but it certainly was a beautiful meal, and I believe that that's going to be today's format as well.
Yeah, so we've still got a lot to cover on today's show. And let's go back to episode 21 and how we put that together. On Monday morning, the 14th of June, Mark and I were here in the studio preparing for the day. I started off okay, but then started to cough as I was talking. Here's Mark.
Yes, at that point in time, we didn't know what was going to happen later in the day. Of course, all very well advertised hindsight now, but at the time, it was just another day. We did our little introduction to the day and then jumped in the taxi and went to Scarborough.
But this was where it all fell apart. I had a mask on. I was starting to feel quite sick, actually, towards the end of the day. Here's Mark.
Yes, I couldn't tell by looking at you, but I could certainly tell that you had gone downhill significantly from the morning. And then by the time we finished lunch, you were all but ready for sleep. So by the time we made our way back to the caravan park and into the park waiting for the taxi, you were almost in complete not-off mode, but you were certainly struggling to keep your eyes open, and you did say that you felt quite tight in the chest and you were coughing a lot, starting to sniffle. So it was obvious that you were unwell by sort of 2:30 in the afternoon. And of course, we had to wait for an exceedingly long time for a taxi, and that didn't help the situation at all. And then once you got home, tested positive for COVID.
And I was pretty much in bed from that moment on. I didn't even get to do the end of the show from here. So there you have it, the memories of out and about. And sadly, it is coming to an end. Here's Mark.
It is coming to an end, and we now know when. So hopefully we'll be able to plan our remaining time and keep bringing a few more shows to you. And now that we know the end, we can stop speculating and with what might happen and what might happen when, etc. And we can go back to just presenting a show and taking you around, show you the sights.
And we will take a break now. I guess now that it is time to formally say, safely say, I should say, that I have really enjoyed my time here in Bray Park. Now, I'd like to tell you how I moved into Bray Park and why. Well, Mark wasn't here for the early days, but how I got this vacancy here. Well, I put in an expression of interest, and I was supposed to move in on the 23rd of August last year, but unfortunately COVID stopped that, so I had to wait until this year to move up. And on the 5th of April, my time here at Bray Park was born. Over the past 7 months, okay, I've had some ups and downs like whoop, 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 whoop. And it's the only way I can put it. Here's Mark now. Good afternoon to you again.
Good afternoon, Barry. Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome back. You have had a roller coaster ride of emotions while you've been here. So not surprising that you're ready to get off the ride.
And we've already covered out and about now, so this is episode 61. In my life here, Bray Park has been different from what I had in Sydney, but very soon I will be heading back this way, back that way. Here's Mark now to tell you about it.
Yes, in the very near future, you'll be moving back to Sydney, which has been your mission for some time. So I have to say congratulations on getting this move organised and underway, and happy for you that you're going to get what you want in the end.
And how yesterday planned out, well, like I said before the break, if I don't ask for what I won't get it. Here's Mark.
That's true of everything in life. If you don't ask, how is anyone meant to know what it is that you want to achieve or get or have or experience or anything? So if you don't communicate, don't expect to get anything that you want.
And people cannot read your mind, guys. Here's Mark.
Not only can they not read your mind, they don't read hints, and being cryptic about what you want doesn't serve a purpose. It's not meant to be a guessing game for other people. Just communicate effectively and let people know what you want, then hopefully that's what you get.
But if you're just assuming, guys, that people are going to read your mind, well, all that Mark and I can say now on the show is you're getting absolutely nowhere by playing mind games. Here's Mark.
It's just the negative of what we were just talking about. It doesn't serve you any purpose to not communicate clearly what it is that you want.
So the end of Bray Park, okay, is drawing near, and with 2.5 months to go, how many days is that? Well, 2 months is 59 days, I think. Would I be right?
Well, just for evening out purposes, let's just say 30 days to a month. So 2 months, 60 days.
So 60 days to go. Okay, so it's gonna go like the and who knows where I might bring out and about to you. Who knows? Here's Mark.
Well, I'm assuming that we've got a few more out and about in Brisbane to go. And then once you're back in New South Wales, I'm not sure what format the show will take, but I'm sure that you'll be getting yourself out to the sites and enjoying the beautiful northern beaches of Sydney.
And of course, you are invited to come and see me in Sydney, of course.
Thank you. I will.
If Amanda will let you, of course.
She'll probably be happy to send me down.
So as the Out and About series winds up, not only for the year, which brings us on to our last program for the year, which will not be next Monday, but the Monday and Tuesday after that. Okay, we thought we'd do a Christmas special, ladies and gentlemen, to say out in 2022, and also the highlights of 2022, and how 2022 has gone for you. Mark and I would like to know how 2022 has gone for you. Here's Mark to tell you about it.
Well, we've been keen to get feedback from viewers right from the start, and that hasn't stopped. Still keen to get feedback from viewers. So either suggestions, critiquing, or ideas for future presentations. It'd be absolutely fantastic to get some viewer input. And of course, if you want to send a message, then probably the easiest way is to send a letter to Barry at Barry Fear Productions at 23 Mundy, Mundie Place, Bray Park, and Queensland, obviously. And the postcode is
4500. But like we say, if you don't feel like writing in, guys, the choice is up to you. Well, we're going to take a break, another break now, and see how our chicken's looking. See you soon.
maybe fed.
Well, good afternoon again, and welcome to the last hour of episode 62. I'm Barry here. Welcome to the last hour of our show. Today we've had chicken schnitzel for lunch, and it was delicious. Now what you've got to do, guys, is simply get some chicken, soak it in some milk, okay, let it sit for a while, okay, and then crumb it in your breadcrumbs and then fry it. And now here's Mark. Good afternoon. Welcome to the last hour of episode 62.
Thanks, Barry, and good afternoon, viewers, and welcome back to the last hour. And as Barry's just said, we had chicken schnitzel for lunch, and he's explained the entire process already, so you can already tell how simple it is, and it really is a very simple but delicious snack or meal, depending on how much you want to dress it up. But absolutely beautiful, wasn't it, Barry?
It was. So, well, I'd like to explain, okay, if I could just be serious for a couple of moments. We know that you have enjoyed the Out and About series, but guys, like all good things, they must come to an end. And like with a television show, okay, I did season 1 in Sydney and season 2 here in Bray Park. And next year's season 3, will be back in Sydney in February. So to the 13th to the 17th of February. And now here's Mark to tell you about it.
Thanks, Barry. The dates have been set from the 13th to the 17th of February for Barry's move back to Sydney. So great excitement. And as he's just said, it will mean the beginning of something new. And with that comes the end of something old. So Out and About, based in Brisbane, will be no more. And there'll be a brand new production coming out of the brand new Sydney studios from February on. So it'll be something to look forward to. And obviously, all of this content remains. So anytime you miss us, you'll be able to go into YouTube and catch up.
And I'd like to go back over very quickly on why I'd like to go back and recap on the reason why I am leaving. It's because it's not that I don't like Bray Park. I think it is wonderful, but for me to make an informed decision like this, guys, okay, it's very difficult because when I'm in a setting such as this, as awesome as it is. Okay, sometimes you've just got to say, that's it. Here's Mark.
Yes. Well, your move is motivated by wanting to get back to home. And when I say that, I mean where your heart is. So your heart's in Sydney with your family and friends that you've built up over a number of years. And very tellingly, as an adult, you've developed a lot of friends. And I don't think you realised, because it might be the first time as an adult that you've decided to just take off like you did to move to Queensland on your own. So I'm not sure how many times you've been sort of out on your own in the past with no access to family and friends. And of course, you know, you get very used to the staff where you were, and that's a big part of your life. And then you move to a new place and you've got all new staff, no friends, and you know, no family on hand. So there wasn't a lot of support for you emotionally when you moved in here. And I think that was exceedingly hard on you. And the house itself is probably a fair bit different to what you were expecting. It's possibly a lot more chaotic and unpredictable than you thought it was going to be. And all of that has played into an incredible desire for you to get home.
So, like we've said before, okay, or like I've said before, the shoe had been too tight. It hadn't fit. Here's Mark.
Well, you knew from the moment that you arrived that you didn't fit here, or it didn't fit you. And consequently, right from the very start, you've basically been trying to get back to New South Wales. So it's not surprising. You knew straight away. You've been mentally prepared to be going back there ever since. So, as you say, whilst Bray Park's nice, it doesn't have any of that history or camaraderie that you already had in your last house. And I'm sure that for you, moving back to Sydney is going to be a great improvement for your psyche and your general well-being. I think it'll just make you a much happier man.
And like, on the 31st of May, I began to plan it. But unfortunately, guys, I didn't have the funding for that house. And secondly, I didn't have the funding for a house. There were no vacancies in Sydney at the time. And my homesickness just grew and grew and grew. And that was not good. Like, when you're away from your loved ones, your family, your friends, and you miss them, but you miss them all, I should say. Here's Mark.
And you were missing them right from the start. You've been very focused on being able to catch up with family. And it's not surprising that you've persisted in trying to organise this move. And happily, now it's something that you don't have to worry about, because it's happen, and you'll be able to get back and catch up with all the old crew.
And like yesterday, I had a bucket load of good news on that phone. Here's Mark.
Yes, well, yesterday's news was the date range, which is the vital information that's been missing from every other discussion. And of course, when you have those discussions and you keep asking when and don't get an answer, then you just become more and more and more and more frustrated. So finally getting this answer has removed an incredible amount of stress from the whole situation, even though you knew that you were going to be moving. Not knowing when has been a difficult emotion to control.
And now after that phone call yesterday, I can grab that emotion and go and throw it in the bin.
Yep, exactly right. Because from now on, it's just a matter of everything becomes a productive conversation now and a productive use of your time, because it's all working towards the move. Whereas before, it felt like you were talking in circles, didn't it? Because nothing seemed to be making it progress to you're actually going to get into a vehicle and head towards Sydney.
And the bonus of this is that I'm not spending heaps of money on fuel and accommodation and things like that. I can just get on the plane, go shh, and then shh, and then be home within an hour and a half. Go to the new house and I'm there. Give Mark.
It'll be a fantastic day for you the day that you actually get to fly, because it will be an interesting situation for you leaving here and arriving there on the same day. So you'll wake up in the morning and you'll be at Bray Park, and then you'll go to bed in the evening and you'll be at Cromer. So it'll be a totally new world, all in the space of one day.
And to those that have helped me get through this, I thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. Because who would have thought Sydney might not happen? Well, on May 20th, I thought it was never gonna crack. And then on episode 20, again, some miscommunication. It was just the package. Here's Mark.
There's been a lot of confusion about what processes were being undertaken and for what purpose. And unfortunately, some of that miscommunication really did increase your stress levels something terrible, because you thought you were having an assessment for one reason and it turned out it was for something completely different, and not one that you realised was going on, and it didn't in any way get you any closer to moving back to Sydney. So it became a point of contention once you realised that all of that time, effort and talking hadn't resulted in any progress at all.
So my stress level went whip, and then on May 20th, that's when all the stress started. I was in here, door closed, not a very happy man. But like I just said a moment ago, I can take the stress, grab it, go to the stress, grab it, and then go rip it up and throw it in the bin because it no longer exists. Here's Mark.
It'll be a great day when you've got everything actually booked and there are tickets and all the paper evidence as well. But until then, I expect that you're going to be a very happy chappy. So now that we're, as I said, just working towards the move rather than working towards
Bureaucracy.
working towards getting the bureaucracy to start playing the game to get you to your move organised. Very nice to reach that point where now everyone's finally on the same page of married back.
And like yesterday. Okay. There were if I didn't ring those people up and say hey, or email them I should say, and say hey, what's the date? Then I would still be here 3 months later, no thanks. But thanks to me, I did it all. Here's Mark.
Yes, you realise that they needed some kind of motivation, and in the absence of the provision of any date, but everyone agreeing that you were moving back to Sydney, you chose the course of action of telling them all it was going to be the 11th of January, which of course spurred everyone into action because it couldn't be the 11th of January, but at least it made them commit to a date. So now everyone's actually working towards that. So you are well and truly on your way back to Sydney now.
So it has been a wonderful journey, guys. Being with you here at Bray Park. So we'd like to thank you for being on the journey. Now, you probably think that this is the end of the story, don't you? Well, not quite. Because I can honestly tell you, it has been a roller coaster, guys. It feels like I've been on a roller coaster. And now that I can finally get off it and go my own way and see the friends that I hadn't seen since I left Sydney. And that, after yesterday's phone call, said it all. Here's Mark.
Yep, so you're on your way and we couldn't be happier. So whilst we've still got a bit of time left here and there's still organising to be done, I look at it as being the end of the turmoil and the beginning of a nice stress-free life moving forward, knowing that you have a time frame to move back to Sydney. You can just sit back and enjoy it now rather than stress about whether you're going to be able to get out and back to Sydney or not. So I'm hoping in some ways that you'll enjoy your time here even more once you've got everything in place.
So guys, thank you for being on the journey. a very tough and rocky journey, we must admit. Mark copped a fair bit in June as well. He had COVID, I had COVID, and I can tell you it was not very good. And like we can honestly tell you, the Bray Park Road in 2.5 months, well, December's going like the, and very soon it will be Christmas, and then all of January, and then the first week of February, guys, and goodbye to Bray Park and to Out and About. So our Out and About series will end on the Story Bridge, the same way that we began it. Here's Mark.
We've decided that Full Circle seems to be highly appropriate for the last day to emulate the first day. And hopefully our last day experience will be vastly superior to day one, when we had a lot of challenges to overcome, based on my ignorance, to be honest. And knowing what I know now, I'm much better prepared to make our trip across the Story Bridge a much more satisfying day adventure than last time.
And we might even visit Scarborough and Shorncliffe again, and maybe even Pig and Whistle to reminisce the time and the shows that we've done there. Here's Mark.
Well, we've got enough time to go back to quite a few places, and no doubt we will revisit a number of places, which I'm looking forward to, and having a slightly different look at them now. So it'll still be well worth tuning in for, even though we're already telling you we'll be going back to places that we've been. We'll be looking at them through different eyes.
So guys, as we draw episode 62 to a close today, we'd like to say a huge thank you. And here's Mark to say thank you also.
I do want to say thank you to everyone that tunes in, and to Barry for introducing me to YouTube and video production. So it's been, as I say, an education for me, both from the point of view of Barry getting around in an electric wheelchair and all those restrictions, and all of the video production, etc., that happens to bring you the show. And I'm very keen to see how the last few weeks pan out.
So thank you guys for tuning in as always. But if you've got anything that you'd like us to cover before I do go, like I said, please do feel free to write in. You don't have to if you don't wish to. It is entirely your choice, guys. So it is up to you, and we totally respect your privacy on that. And we close the show each time with 000. Now, we feel we should bring it up again, because I won't be here to bring it to you when I end the show, the series, but 000, guys, we repeat, 000 is only for emergencies. Here is Mark now to close episode 62 with that message.
Thanks, Barry. A very important message it is. 000, the emergency number. It says it all. It is only for emergencies. It's something that we should teach all children how to dial and what to expect when they get through on the 000 line, because it is only for emergencies. So the first question will be, what is your emergency? From that, they will determine who you need to speak to, whether it's police or fire brigade or the ambulance, and they will want more detailed information. So if you don't have an emergency, please don't clutter up the line. It's very important that when there are emergencies that people can get through immediately and speak to an operator. So as we're always saying, please don't abuse 000. Only call if you've got an emergency, and hopefully you will never need the number. But if you do, don't hesitate to use it. Please call if you do have an emergency.
But if you don't need to call them, leave it alone and take us out. Please donate to Life Flight, guys. Every little bit helps. So if I can just get Mark to show you the bag, for those of you that haven't seen it.
I've lost you.
And just pause that. This bag which you see here, RACQ Life Flight, guys. Okay. Call into any RACQ branch at your local shopping centre and donate some money to the rescue helicopter service and buy one of their awesome products. They've got beds, they've got helicopters, you name it, and every little bit helps, guys. And that is episode 62. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next Monday for episode 63. Here's Mark now for his farewell.
Thanks, Barry. Take care, everyone. I look forward to our next catch-up. And until then, stay safe.
And have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next Monday morning at 10 o'clock for episode 63 and 64 on Tuesday. So until then, have a great Tuesday night, and from us now, bye bye.
Bye, everyone.